Hello everyone, this is Nirmal from AWS Solution Architect team. Today we are going to discuss about how to manage costs while you are running EKS workloads in Kubernetes cluster. Now, whether I have mentioned EKS, this can be hosted in AWS, or it can be running as a on-premise Kubernetes solution, or it can be something like a hybrid where you have EKS anywhere implemented. So in all of the scenarios, how you can actually have better cost visualization across all the workloads that you are running on Kubernetes. So that will be the primary agenda for today's discussion. We are also going to talk about how KubeCost can actually help on mitigating each and every workloads for different line of businesses. We're going to talk about the architecture about it, and we're going to discuss about how you can actually integrate Kubernetes, especially the EKS one, with AWS features like AWS cost utilization report. And if you're using something like Spot instances, how you can actually get how much you are actually, if you are using the Spot instances for maximum, cost utilization perspective. We're going to also talk about how you can automatically manage your workloads based on the cost budget, which you can also set through KubeCost, and how you can actually get notification alerts, and you can proactively terminate the workloads if they are actually exceeding the budgets. So all this we are going to discuss today. Let's get started. So first of all, just need a little bit recap on this, like why we need a separate cost management tool for Kubernetes. That should be the primary question that is coming up. So if you are already using Kubernetes, and let's say you are using Kubernetes with AWS, which is a managed Kubernetes provider like EKS, so you probably already know that Kubernetes by default provides the support for multi-tenancy. That means you can run workloads in the same Kubernetes cluster from different line of businesses. Let's say you have a DevOps team, you have a team of data scientists, you have typical other software developers community. So all of them can actually use the same Kubernetes cluster, and their workloads can be distributed into different namespaces. So in Kubernetes, namespace actually provides the logical boundary for all the workloads that you can have. But the problem is, like, if you're using EKS, you will get the monthly cost for running the same cluster from the AWS billing, or maybe from the cost utilization report. You can also check that, but you will not get the complete picture, like what is the contribution from different team for this entire cost. Let's say you are running some machine learning workload which is which is taking too many resources, right? Which is having a lot of scales, and and at the same time you also have a web application, suppose that is going to scale up depending on the load, right? So you need a better cost visualization, and our customers who are more conscious about cost optimization, so they actually prefer to understand what is the granular level cost details here, right? So these kind of information are not available out of the box for Kubernetes, and KubeCost actually gives a very good solution for this particular scenario. Okay, and if you remember, like as I mentioned, you can also use multiple Kubernetes cluster. So if you are already a customer who is migrating to EKS, you may create separate Kubernetes cluster for separate team. But over the time, what happens is this becomes very difficult to manage, right? So let's say this is something called like hard multi-tenancy, where you have a dedicated Kubernetes cluster for each and every different line of businesses. So without any sophisticated tool to understand the cost utilization, what generally the network engineers or maybe the administrators generally do is, like, they try to kind of estimate the cost based on how many pods you are running, how many instances the cluster currently have, and also based on the requirements, like if you provide requirements such as memory limit and CPU limit, right? Based on that, you can actually do some back calculation and you can find it, but that will not be as exact, and also that will require a lot of additional work from the infrastructure team, right? So in this all type of scenario, we can actually propose a very sophisticated solution, which is KubeCost. Although it's an open source solution, but you can actually get basically two versions of it. You can have the free version, which is available as a open source GitHub project. You can download it, you can install it, but at the same time you also get a paid version, which is also available in the AWS Marketplace solution. I'm going to talk about the differences between these two versions a little bit later, but let's talk about some key attributes here. So you can install KubeCost for understanding the cost visualization in any Kubernetes cluster, be it running on your on-premise hardware or EKS, or even different cloud providers also, which is having the Kubernetes version should be 1.8 and above in all these cases. Okay, so one of the cool feature is it actually runs as a self-hosted service in the Kubernetes. That means it has its own set of pods and deployments, which generally you do not need to manage. Of course, you can scale out these things based on the requirement, but that's already available in the paid version. You do not need to worry about it. It actually provides cost monitoring across different Kubernetes entities. So as I was mentioning earlier, if you are deploying your workloads, it can actually tag the cost figure to each and every Kubernetes entities. That is namespaces, that is deployments, services, ingress, including your storage and memory and CPU costs also. Okay, so that is you can get absolute visual details about what and every component is actually contributing to the overall cost. It can also provide recommendations. So let's say you have a Kubernetes cluster which is kind of over provisioned, and you are not utilizing the full capacity. Okay, so in that case, customer needs to identify that, okay, if I can scale in some of the instances to make sure that they are properly utilized. So overall, what KubeCost does, it has something a mechanism called moving average calculation. So through this mechanism, it can identify over a period of days that you have certain EC2 instances, or maybe that can be on demand or spot instances, which you can safely drain to make sure whatever instances you have, they are properly utilized. So all these are completely available from the KubeCost console. We'll show them later. And also at the same time, the most important thing is the budget. So as a customer who is more cost conscious, you can actually set that for each of the namespaces you can have a limit, and whenever that budget is exceeded, you can get notification to the proper team through email or through Slack channel. You can also build your custom solution because it also has a webhook through which you can actually communicate to it, but we'll talk about that later. So overall, KubeCost is a you can check it out. And the other feature is KubeCost is like whatever matrix that you see, like the cost utilization matrix, they are by default available for 15 days only in the free version, but if you go for the paid version, you will be able to store it for a longer period of time, and you will be able to do a roll up data. So for example, you want to run KubeCost for your production cluster, and you want to see that every month how much cost is actually spent, right? You can actually prepare different reports based on different teams, and you can also prepare reports based on Kubernetes tags, that is the Kubernetes label, as well as Kubernetes annotations. So overall, this is what are the features that we can talk about for KubeCost. Let's talk about the architecture a little bit. So as I mentioned, we have the free version and the paid version, but in both the version we have something called a KubeCost core. So as you can see in the slide, it has a couple of important components. The first component is it has something called a KubeCost pod. So this actually has different containers. The first one is the front end container, which is actually providing an Nginx application server through which we can actually talk to KubeCost through an UI console. It has something like a cost model calculation. So that is another pod which is actually doing the calculation for cost and everything. And it has also a REST API endpoint through which you can actually talk to the KubeCost application through your sample REST APIs. So for developers, this is just one additional point. You can also prepare your custom solutions. Let's say you are deploying your Kubernetes applications through something like Spinnaker, right, which is a continuous deployment platform. In these cases, KubeCost can be integrated with these platforms, and you can actually make sure that the replicas of your Kubernetes pods are properly set based on the cost estimations. So overall, whatever information we are actually capturing, that is eventually going to be stored into a Prometheus database. So whenever you install KubeCost, it actually has a very optimized version of Prometheus installed by default. You do not need to worry about it. Why I am saying optimized version? Because if you use your own Prometheus, then it has many additional matrices collected also, which may not be required, right? So what KubeCost does in the open source free version, it has a very tuned version of Prometheus. And from where we are getting the data, we are actually getting the data from a number of containers. I'll say a number of daemon sets, because these containers are actually running on each and every EC2 instances of the EKS cluster. As you can see on the bottom line, you can actually use Node Exporter, you can use Container Advisor or cAdvisor, you can also use Kubestate Matrix or KSM. So in a nutshell, what these components are doing is they are actually running on each and every EC2 instances, and they're collecting the status of how many pods actually running on these containers. I'm sorry, on this particular EC2 instances, how long they're running, how much CPU they're actually charging, and the network traffic, and every other possible metrics they're actually collecting. Okay, and they are periodically routing this information to the KubeCost, which is eventually getting stored into the Prometheus time series database. This is how actually KubeCost actually works. Now, KubeCost also has something like a caching mechanism. So whenever you visualize the data, right, it actually has a caching mechanism for 5 minutes. So till the point of last 5 minutes, whatever information or whatever snapshot has been taken from the entire Kubernetes cluster, you can actually visualize it. If you are using KubeCost, the paid version, then there is also a roll-up information available where you can have 120 minutes of caching. So why this caching is necessary? Otherwise, you are going to kind of overload the Kubernetes cluster every time you do a query for the cost analysis. Okay, so in the production scenario, we generally recommend using the enterprise version or the paid version of KubeCost. So the primary difference between the free version and the paid version is how you're actually storing the data. So data durability is the primary difference. Okay, as you can see in this architecture diagram, we have something called a Thanos containers. So these are something like a sidecar. What this is doing, this is actually helping you to store the Prometheus data into something like a very durable storage. Now that can be something like Amazon S3, or it can be something like which you provide, right? Because sometimes we have seen the customers are very conscious and they do not want to store these financial data to something like any other vendors. So they can have their own on-premise set of solutions where they want to store the data. So in all these cases, the enterprise version actually provides much more flexibility. The other features are very same. There's no difference here. So what Thanos is doing, Thanos is basically a Golang based application which is helping to query the Prometheus engine in a much more optimized way. It also allowing you to configure the persistent storage, as I mentioned. So that is the primary difference, as you can see here. But in the API section, we will see later that it has also many additional APIs which are available for the enterprise version only. That is something like how much savings you are doing, and all these other details. We'll take a look into that later. So these are the differences that I was talking about. The open source version is having by default 15-day metric retention, and the data that is stored generally on the EC2 instances as a EVS volume. So that is not durable, and you can have only one cluster, one EKS cluster configured into the open source Kubernetes kubectl solution. Okay. For the business tier, you get multiple clusters that you can monitor at the same time through one kubectl installation, and you also get a 30-day metric retention period, so you can do a little bit of roll-up data. You can also get support from the business support team. So if you have any issues or any queries, you can actually have support team reach out to you. In the enterprise version, you can have all these features, but you have something like as SSO or SAML feature. So if you are using kubectl and you want to have a set of dedicated administrators talk to your kubectl cluster, you can actually use your existing enterprise IDs, and you do not need to set up separate administration accounts for this. So single sign-on and SAML capabilities are already there. So let's talk about some of the UI stuff. So this is I'm going to show you in the UI actually, but you can see like how this actually looks like. So whenever you log into the kubectl console, you will see a dashboard like this, where you can have overall like a cockpit view of all the clusters and all the resources and how much saving you are having, and an overall a general health of the infrastructure. And at the same time, it can also tell you which EC2 instances are having a lot of memory pressure or CPU pressure. So you can actually, do additional scaling. So all these features are actually provided. As I mentioned earlier, like it can also tell you about some insights that which are the EC2 instances that you can safely drain, and also it also measures the pods. So let's say you have a Kubernetes deployment where the number of replicas is quite large, okay, but due to some reason, let's say you have not implemented any horizontal pod autoscaler, something like that, you have just scaled out the deployment to number of pods, but they are not getting enough traffic, they are not getting enough activity, so they are just consuming the resources. So in that case, you can actually figure it out through kubectl. So these are very meaningful insights that otherwise it is very difficult to understand or even find out. So through which you can actually say that, okay, I can reduce the number of replicas for these Kubernetes deployments, and I can save how much cost, right? So, and in this slide, as you can see, like, it actually provides some recommendations. If you have some EC2 instances which are over provisioned, which are not getting utilized to the full extent, and you can actually, use the slider on top. You can actually make sure that you want to have a headroom. Let's say any instance where it is not utilizing at least 50% of the resources for CPU and memory, you want to just drain that instance from the Kubernetes cluster. So we can actually use this slider to gauge the proper number of instances and how much savings you will get. This is also getting reflected here. So the budgeting part that I was discussing is something which is very unique to kubectl, and this is available in both the free version as well as the paid version. So for every Kubernetes namespace, you can actually provide a daily budget limit. So whenever these budget limits are exceeded, your administrators or probably anybody that you can configure via email or Slack, they will be notified accordingly. Now, one thing to keep in mind is that it actually provides the budgets on the namespace level. So let's say you have you have a namespace called custom namespace or the default namespace, okay, and you are running multiple workloads there. It doesn't say that for a particular deployment how much budget is provided, right? So to do that, you need to actually look into the kubectl API, which is the cost model API. I'm going to show some of the API snippets here. On the right hand side, you can see a sample output of the cost model API, where it shows each and every deployment that is running. So here I was actually running a Postgres deployment in the default namespace, and it shows how much cost is actually incurred by this particular workload. So you can do a back calculation, or you can also create your own set of application which can periodically check this data, and it can automatically terminate the instances or determine the basically the workloads if necessary, right? So this budgeting feature is available for namespaces only. You can also have budgets for the entire cluster. So if you have a single AKS cluster, you can set a daily limit for the entire Kubernetes cluster, right? Notifications, I was already talking about it. It provides notification whenever the budget threshold is exceeded. It can also provide notification on a recurring basis, like every day, how much cost is actually spent, or if there's any inefficiency into the number of instances that is running the case cluster. And if you see on the right hand side, this is a sample email that you can receive from KubeCost, which is going to show you how much cost is incurred for each and every namespace, right? You can add your Slack channels. So all these features are already available. Talking about integration with AWS, so by default, if you want to use KubeCost, we would recommend you to enable the spot data feed. So that is a simple CLI command that you can use to enable spot data feed. What it does is AWS will actually use a specific S3 bucket which you will provide, and all the spot data utilization and the cost details will be shared into that S3 bucket. So KubeCost will actually integrate with that particular S3 bucket, and it can identify how much cost is actually incurred if you are using any spot instances in the KKS cluster. The other feature is like cost utilization report. So I was already talking about that. KubeCost can also send the usage data. It can send the data into emails, right, that I was mentioning, but apart from that, it can also send the data periodically to an S3 bucket, which you can configure, and this will contain the cost utilization report. And if you're using something like Athena and along with Glue, you can actually query the data, and you can use even QuickSight also to prepare a dashboard for your business intelligence, and reporting purposes. So that is a very cool feature. We have seen a couple of customers, going for that particular approach. And the active measures is not available right now with KubeCost. What is meant by active measure is, as I mentioned, like for every namespace, I can have a maximum budget that I can specify on a daily level, right? But what happens if the budget is exceeded? Now, in general scenario, I'll get a notification that, okay, through email or through Slack channel, but can it automatically terminate that instances, or can it automatically reduce the number of replicas for that particular deployment? The answer is no. So for that purpose, what you can do is like you can actually create your own Kubernetes API controller that will like augment the default API controller, and you can actually write this API controller using Golang, and there's a syntax already available in the GitHub project. What you can do from this controller is you can actually periodically check the workloads which are deployed and the maximum amount of budget that has been specified. So whenever the budget is exceeded, you can use the controller, which is a custom controller, to either terminate the deployment or to reduce the number of replicas. That will be based on the business scenario. So this is something like an active cost control measures, which is currently not available. Let me just go ahead and show you some of the syntaxes here. So here, as you can see, this is a sample EKS cluster that I have just prepared. It is having two node groups. The first one is having EC2 M5 Xlarge node group, which is completely running on on-demand instances, and the other one is having spot instances. So if you see the KubeCost, this is the KubeCost console. If you just log into this, I'm using the free version as of now. If I just go inside this, I'm sorry, I think I just need to connect it once again. Yeah, so I've just logged into the keep cost console. As you can see, this is the dashboard. So here you will see how much resource efficiency, how much is the cost allocation for different applications. So as I was telling that I have installed this Postgres application. So this is the percentage of cost due to the Postgres application, the overall health, and each and every namespace and how much cost is there. Okay, let me go ahead with the notification section. So here you can see that I have provided budgets for each and every namespace, and I have also added the email and the Slack channel list if possible. Here you can use the settings section. So in the settings section you can use this template for multiple cloud providers also. So if you are using AWS, you can actually provide the cloud cost configuration. So let's say by default, it automatically collects the billing reports from S3, but you can also provide a separate bucket for that. If you're using different third-party, other cloud vendors also, you can also configure this in this way because this is cloud agnostic. One of the requirement that we have seen from our customers is like, if you're using an on-premise Kubernetes cluster, okay, then how can I know how much cost is incurred for running on to my own set of hardware? Okay, so in that case, what KubeCost does, it actually allows you to provide your own set of pricing information. So if you see this tag, enable custom pricing, here you can, if you just enable it, it will ask you how much cost you can see for running a simple workload, like monthly CPU pricing, spot pricing, RAM cost, GPU pricing, storage cost, and everything. So if you are already managing your own infra in the on-premise environment, you can provide the costs accordingly, and then it will work for your on-premise solution also. So by default, as I'm using AWS EKS, it will automatically getting the report. Regarding the cloud interaction with the Spot, if you see here, I've enabled the EC2 Spot instance data feed into this particular S3 bucket, and I have configured this into the KubeCost settings section. Just give me 1 second here. So if you see the Spot instance configuration, this is where I can actually provide the details. Okay. Now, one of the other feature is having the Grafana dashboard. So if you're using the open source version of KubeCost, you generally do not have the flexibility to use your custom Grafana or Prometheus server. Okay, because this will be automatically integrated and installed via Helm chart. But if you're using the paid version, then you can use your existing Grafana or Prometheus instances. You can actually provide the URLs here, and that will work accordingly. Let me show you the cost allocation section. So in the cost allocation section, you can actually get different metrics based on different entities. Like you can by default, it provides the cost allocation for different namespaces. So you can also just drill down based on the workloads or the containers or maybe the nodes also. So let's say just go to the node section. So each and every nodes, how much they're costing for the overall utilization, you can actually see through it. So overall, this is the UI section. The last point that I will mention is the KubeCost cost utilization report. Right. So if you see, I have specified this particular S3 bucket where KubeCost is actually uploading the cost utilization report over a periodic range. And this bucket files, as you can see in this particular S3 bucket, that contains the actual cost data that is based on multiple entities, like based on the number of nodes, the number of pods, as well as the number of containers that you are actually running. And also one important point to understand is like you can create a particular Athena report, Athena query based on this. What you can do is like you can use Kubernetes labels. If you're using different workloads for the same team, you can also use different labels to identify the categories for each and every cost sectors. Okay. So this is something like what KubeCost automatically does out of the box. It provides the data based on the year and the number of the actual month, right? For every month you will see the report getting generated. Let's talk about a little bit of the API sections that we have. So as I was mentioning earlier, it has APIs for the open source version as well as the paid version. So in the open source version, the by default API is the cost data model, which gives you the overall aggregated features. So one of the requirement that you may have, like if you are using AWS for a longer period of time, you may have something like a savings plan where you have reduced some kind of discounts which is already provided by AWS. So in AWS we actually called it something like a blended cost. So what KubeCost does out of the box is it actually it's not aware of how much savings you are having, how much discount you are having, right? So it will show you the unblended cost, that is the true cost. But if you want to see the blended cost, you can actually specify your savings plan utilization into the settings section of KubeCost, and that will uh, give proper discounts. It will actually show you the discounted price. It also has additional APIs available. So all these APIs have features like uh, it can find out the cost based on a window. You can specify this from that. Um, so let's say go into the allocation API, something like this. You can specify for last 3 days, I want to see the allocation reports and I want to aggregate it via namespace. So it will show you something like this. So overall, you can actually build your own custom solution also if you can consume these APIs. And as I mentioned, KubeCost provides 3 mode of notifications. You can use the webhook part. Through webhook you can actually consume the API and you can create a custom controller to take necessary actions. So I think overall this is something like I want to talk about KubeCost in general. Any questions you can come up and we can discuss accordingly. Thank you very much.